Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another very interesting test to run. It's kind of the sequel to one that we ran just here recently on the channel, and I'm definitely excited to see what it can do. Since this is going to be the other childhood turkey combo that I used to use, I think it's going to be very limited, just like the first one was, but I'm definitely excited to see what it can actually do when we put it on a legitimate patterning board. Since when I was a kid, we just took a sheet of printer paper and kind of drew a circle on it, or maybe printed out a turkey head on one if we were lucky, and shot that at an indoor range at probably 15 yards. So I realistically don't know the true limitations of what this combo actually was able to do. But first, we'll look at the setup that was my childhood turkey gun. This is an old NEF Pardner model SB1. It is a youth model as well. It's got a really short length of pull, and the stock actually ends about here, and I added this extra recoil pad on top to make it somewhat usable for an adult. But it's a 410 single shot, just break action shotgun. It's got a 22-inch barrel, fixed full choke, measures at about 395. Very standard full choke measurement, and I recently actually had it drilled and tapped to put a red dot on top, so that way you don't have to absolutely jam your face down to try and sort of get as low as you can for a proper visual on that front bead. At least now with the red dot, it's actually usable by an adult. But this is about as simple and basic as you can get. This gun was given to me by a family friend when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. I took it out turkey hunting the handful of times we went. Never actually shot a turkey with it until a couple years ago when I'm actually an adult now and just wanted to shoot one with it. But this was all pre-TSS era. 2007, 8, 9, 10, somewhere right in that range. So that brings us to the load we got today. That being some of these Remington Game Loads. They're a 410, 2.5 inch, half-ounce payload of lead 6s at about 1,200 feet per second. This was kind of the backup shell that I ran to some of the Winchester super speed loads. We did just recently test those. Here's the video up in the cards if you want to go watch that one as well. Those were the main shells I used, but I also did pattern these a couple times on that same piece of printer paper. And now that I have a legit patterning setup, I'm curious if these might have actually been a better performer than those Winchesters were. Obviously, they're a 2.5 inch lead 6 and a 410. They're going to be extremely limited. 20-25 yards is probably realistic, but we'll see what we get as far as patterns go, I suppose. They could always surprise us. But as for today's test, we're going to kind of run it the same as we usually do. However, we're going to shoot 3 shots. I would like to do 20, 30, and 40 yards. However, a lead shell from a 410, especially only a half ounce of 6s, is extremely limited. I don't think we're going to get to 40 yards. And if we do, it's not going to be a very good pattern, I don't believe. Could surprise us, but probably not. So that's what I would like to do. However, I think we're probably going to have to do 20, 25, and 30 based on our previous test as well. So we'll start with 20 yards and take a look at it. Then we'll go to 30 yards and take our shot and see what we get. And based on our 30-yard performance, we'll see if maybe we can step it to 40, or should we just walk it back and do 25 and split it right down the middle. Either way, I think that's going to give us a pretty decent idea on what this combo might have actually been capable of back when I was 9 years old or so. We know it's not going to light up the board, but we'll start at 20 yards. Let's get you guys a view of that target, take our shot, and see where we stand for a starting point. Okay, that shell gave us 1257 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1200. So we're actually seeing a little bit over the claim from our 22-inch barrel. Obviously, that's plenty enough velocity for a lead 6. So let's go look at our 20-yard performance. All right, so here's our 20-yard pattern. And indeed, we absolutely do have a dead bird here. You can see that we don't have a ton of shot to work with, that's for sure. That's just how lead in a 410 works. You just don't have a lot of pellet count. But we do have one right through the top edge of the brain and several more right through the spine area down the middle of his neck that would have done the job. That particular shot might have favored just a hair over to the left, but there's still nowhere he can go to through that pattern and get through it. So 20 yards, that is going to kill the turkey just fine. May not look pretty, but it's certainly going to do the job. And it might be a little bit tighter overall than what the Winchesters were. Don't know just yet. We'll see after we take our next couple shots, but this might hold a little better pattern out at a little bit farther ranges than what those Winchesters did. We do have two obvious flyers down here at the bottom as well, but that's not anything out of the ordinary for a lead shell. But that is a perfectly capable 20-yard turkey pattern. For what it is, it's really not too bad. So now we'll step it to 30 yards. I don't think we're going to wind up making it to 40, but we'll go to 30. We'll see what we get at 30, and then we'll decide whether we do 40 or 25. So let's walk it back up here and take our 30-yard shot and see what we get there. And that shell gave us 1240 through the chrono. Still a little bit over that 1200 box claim, but that's still perfectly fine for a lead 6 in the mid 1200s or so. But let's look at our target and see what we got at 30 yards. So here is that 30-yard pattern, and it definitely opened up pretty quickly here, that's for sure. Just 10 yards of a difference, and this turkey may very well have gotten away from you. We don't technically have any through the brain or the direct spine. We did have these two kind of in the back of the head area up here that may have stunned him or may have gotten the job done, potentially, but I don't know that I would trust it. And down through the rest of his neck, you had a couple that got close and maybe a couple body shots, so that one may have kind of flopped and flailed around for a while. You might have had to go off chasing after that one, because with a single shot like that, reloads aren't exactly the quickest thing. But you can immediately see the difference here. Much more open of a core area. We still kept a pretty even spread. The pattern is still pretty circular, so it's not a bad pattern. If you wanted to squirrel hunt with it or rabbit hunt with it or something like that, it would still do the job for you. But when it comes to turkey hunting with it, 30 yards, I would say, is the absolute maximum limit. I don't know that I would push it any farther than that. And even at 30 yards, I still probably wouldn't try it. It's just too much of a toss-up whether you're going to actually hit what you want or whether you're going to wound the bird. I do think the pattern might be a little nicer looking than what the Winchesters gave us before, but at least with those Winchesters, we did have a few more pellets through that bird's head and neck area than what we see here. Some of it might be a little bit of luck of the draw, but either way you look at it, this combo is definitely going to be an inside of 30-yard type of setup. So judging by this, we could try it at 40. Maybe we'll get one or two random pellets that hit what we need to hit, but I don't think it's really going to tell us much. This is already the limit or just a little bit over the limit. So let's go back a little bit to 25 yards. We'll split the difference between the two and we'll see what it looks like there, because I think 25 or so might be a pretty realistic range for this type of setup. So let's take our 25-yard shot and see what we get there. And that shell gave us 1265 through the chrono. Still bouncing right around mid 1200s or so. So at least they look pretty consistent, although they are 50-ish feet per second on average above the boss claim of 1200. But that's still perfectly fine for a lead 6. But let's check out our 25-yard pattern. And here we have our 25-yard pattern. It's definitely tighter than what we saw at 30 yards, but it's not as good as what we saw at 20 yards for sure. Seems like every step past that 20-yard target, we quickly open the pattern up. Now, do we have a dead bird at 25 yards? I think so, but it is very close. We had two that were pretty close to hitting spine up here that probably would have done the job just back behind the brain there. And we might have had one more down towards the bottom end of his spine down there. So I do think that is a dead bird at 25 yards. But yet again, I think 25 yards is about the realistic limit for what these can do. And overall, this is pretty interesting. If you've seen the previous test that we did with the actual load that I took out in the field in those Winchester shells, then you'll kind of have an idea of the difference between these patterns here. I think these Remington shells pattern a little better than those Winchesters did overall. However, I think those Winchesters were able to hold a few more pellets through the core area than what these Remingtons can. They're pretty similar, but I trust those Winchester shells at 25 a little more than I trust these Remingtons. Both of them at 30 yards, it's really pushing your luck. And this is probably why when my dad actually took me hunting back then, we ran the Winchesters. They were a slight bit better than what these Remingtons gave us. And this was before the days of TSS. This just goes to show why TSS has really made a massive difference when it comes to these sub gauges. Because we've tested TSS through that same exact shotgun, and it is 35, maybe even 40-yard capable. But with lead, not so much the case. Now, a 3-inch shell with a little bit more sixes in it could help, or a 3-inch shell that's a 7.5 shot could fill in the pattern a little better and still kill a turkey within 30 yards. So that would have been a better option in my opinion, but this is what we were working with back then. Definitely pretty interesting to see, but now we know, and for these Remingtons, 25 yards is probably about the realistic limitations. We're definitely going to be fine at closer than that, but I wouldn't push it any farther. And here are all three patterns popped up side by side, so you guys can pause it here and look at them all if you want directly next to each other. But you can clearly see every step you take past 20 yards or so, you're really starting to push your luck. Obviously, it can kill a turkey out to 30 yards, but for me, if I'm hunting with this combo, which is obviously not ideal at all, I'm going to be inside of 25 yards, preferably 20 yards and in. This setup can absolutely kill a turkey. You just have to know your range limitations. So if you wanted a challenge, a combo like that would definitely give it to you. And here's one of the wads I found from that shell. Nothing overly fancy or special to see. We definitely peeled 2 of the petals way back compared to the other, but nothing stuck down in there and no major damage or anything to the actual petals. And I really don't think it did a ton to, help our pattern stay really tight necessarily. But I mean, it did its job. It prevented the bore contact from that lead pellet up against the inside of that barrel. So nothing overly special to see here. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about this performance right here? Obviously, it's a lead shell in a 410, and a 2.5-inch half-ounce load at that. It's gonna be extremely limited. I think we all knew that coming into it, but this was one of the shells that I tested and could have hunted with when I was 8-9 years old or so. This was the setup that I used, although I never got the chance to shoot a turkey with it until I was an adult here just a few years ago with an actual TSS load through that gun. But overall, I think it's pretty realistic here. 25 yards and in is probably about what you're looking at. And I mean, the turkey wouldn't be able to tell the difference if he got hit with a handful of lead sixes at 20 yards from a 410. It's still going to be just as dead as shooting one at 30 or 35 or 40 or whatever with a load of sixes and a 12 gauge. Ain't going to make a difference. Still the same pellet, the same weight, and the same kind of velocities. You're just very limited when it comes to pellet count and the distance you can take the shot at, that's for sure. But at least now I know that if I wanted to hunt with that particular combination and the shells that I used to hunt with when I was a kid, the Winchesters we tested previously are probably a little bit better of an option, although these still would work inside of 25 yards. So definitely pretty interesting to see here. And again, just goes to show what a massive difference TSS has made for all the sub gauges. Even 20 gauge lead is pretty iffy past 30 yards. But you can let me know your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever run a lead shell in a 410 for turkeys? And if so, what kind of results have you gotten out of it? Is this a similar childhood setup to maybe what you guys had? Or what did you guys run when you were a kid for turkeys? And even now, if you're an adult, is this a combo you would actually ever try and hunt with? And if so, would you limit yourself to 30 and in, 25 and in, 20 and in? And maybe what other stuff do you want to see us do when it comes to that kind of 410 combo? What other shells might you want to see through that old Pardner? Or maybe we bring these shells out and put them through my Mossberg with an actual turkey choke and see if we can push them a little bit farther than 25 yards. I don't know. Let me know what you guys might want to see. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.